this morning on Doctor's Note, we're joined by Blaze Akom. He is a nurse at the Medina Polyclinic, Kikili, a cervical or I'm not sure how this is said, a cervical cancer advocate and the Secretary of Cancer Support Network Foundation. You are welcome.
Thank you.
Blaze Akom.
Thank you.
Tell me something. Give me some education. I hear people say cervical. I hear people say cervical. Which one is accurate?
Any of them goes.
Either is fine.
Yeah, either is fine.
Either is
cervical
fine.
or cervical.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Great. I just wanted to
Yeah.
be sure. So you're welcome.
Thank you.
And this morning on Doctor's Note, we're talking about cervical cancer. We're just going to jump straight into it. When you hear cervical cancer, what exactly is it?
Okay, so let me say hi to all those listening to us. Basically, cervical cancer is the cancer of the cervix. And a man does not have a cervix. It's only women who have a cervix. And the cervix is just located between the womb and the vagina. And in God's own wisdom, the whole body is made up of millions of cells. So these cells are being designed in such a way that they have a time that they have to die so that new cells will replace them. So the cells are being controlled by what we call a DNA. The DNA is just like the engine of a car.
Right.
It detects whether the car should move or not. So the DNA will tell the cell that your time is up. You need to go away so that new cells will come. But at times the DNA can be damaged. So you get cells growing in a manner in which they are not supposed to grow.
Right.
So as they are growing, they are forming a tumor. So when these cells overgrow on your cervix, it results to what we call cervical cancer.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
But I like the detailed explanations.
Yeah.
What causes this?
Okay, so basically, usually we say that cancer in general, we don't know the actual cause, but with cervical cancer, we know it's caused by a certain sexually transmitted infection called the HPV. That's the human papilloma virus, and as indicated, it's sexually transmitted. So if you have multiple sexual partners, your chances of coming into contact with the virus is high. One thing is that we men, most of us have got the virus, but we don't know. But what happens is when your immunity is stronger, within the space of some few months, your system is able to clear the virus on this one. So if you're a woman or a lady and you change partners, you might not know whoever you come into contact with who is harboring the virus. A woman might be having a single partner, but the partner is having multiple sexual partners, and you end up contracting it. And starting sex at an early age. In this, our modern society, 9, 10 years, they've started having sex. So you can predispose yourself to this HPV infection that we are talking about. And type 16 and 18 are the known causes for the cervical cancer. And we have other risk factors like smoking. Okay. Smoking contains about 69 chemicals that causes cancer. And now the industry has diverted attention from the normal cigarettes impacts. Now people smoke through pipes, which comes in the form of many flavors, the apple, the strawberry, the cappuccino. And mind you, there's no safe method of smoking. Taking shisha alone for 1 hour, we've taken about 100 sticks of cigarettes. Because Ghana, we are not a serious country, that's why we are still selling this. Tanzania, Rwanda, they've banned the smoking of shisha. So, and I've seen that most ladies smoke shisha. And what happens, it will weaken your immune system. Whenever you come into contact with the HPV, your system is not able to clear it. The same chemicals can cause the damage of the cell DNA, which will make these cells to also overgrow. And we have one risk factor called douching. Now, about 90% of all ladies want the vagina to be tight. I asked, well, what did you do in the first place? And the place became bigger. We are living a generation where a man wants the penis to be bigger, a lady wants the place to be smaller. Where are you going to insert it? So now we have vaginal sprays, deodorant, where women or ladies go to an extent of spicing up the area, putting all these sort of chemicals in there. And we have a normal flora under there which protects you naturally from infections. So when you send all these things there, it kills this bacteria. Okay. And whenever HPV sets in, you are prone to developing cervical cancer or cervical cancer.
Okay, thank you for that broad explanation. So if you do get cervical cancer, what are the signs? What are some of the things you see and feel to make you know that something is wrong?
At times, it's quite unfortunate. Usually, we say that it's asymptomatic. At times, even at the initial stage, you might not see anything. But at times, your body will tell you, no, there's something which is not going on well with you. So usually I tell women that you have to know what is normal in you. So that whatever the abnormal thing sets in, you get to know. So when you are having your period for a longer time, some people might bleed for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I had a woman who bled for like 8 months, 2 weeks, and was still asking whether you should come to the hospital. You need to report longer menstrual period. Usually, some people can flow for 2 days. Flowing for 2 days is normal. Up to 7 days is normal. But when it extends to like 2 weeks, getting to a month, and you are still flowing, you need to report to the hospital. It's one sign. And at times, some might end their menstrual period today. A day or two, you see another blood flow. You need to also report. Our mothers, those who are their menopausal stage, during that stage, you are not supposed to see any form of blood coming from the place. So when those of our mothers who are their menopausal stages are still seeing blood flow coming out from the vagina, they need to also report. When you bleed after sex, postcoital bleeding, you need to also report. Some of them are due to pelvic infections, inflammations that you've had, and some don't even take their sizes, so you bleed. I'm not talking about that one. But when everything is okay and you have sex, you bleed after sex, you have consistent pain during sexual intercourse. Mind you, it can also be pelvic infections and inflammations. You need to report. You'll be having this unusual vaginal discharge that comes in the form of rotten fish. Yet when it happens, it means that the disease is far advanced, and at least can be done for you. The normal discharge that comes out from a lady or from a woman smells like an onion. That cleanses the vagina. That's why we usually say the vagina is a self-cleanser. So it cleanses it. So that's the normal. So any deviation from that means that the vagina is sick, the vagina is not feeling well. You need to report. The last stage where little can be done for you is where there will be leakage of urine and feces from the vagina, called fistula.
Wow. How can you prevent this?
Yeah, so we can prevent through screening. If you are sexually active, if you've had sex before, you need to get yourself screened. We have all sorts of manner of screenings. We have the pap smear, we have the VIA, and we have the HPV DNA testing. You can test to see whether you are there's abnormal growth on your cervix. You can also test to see whether you've been exposed to the HPV infection or not. And when you test, then you are fine. You are good to go. Our children, those who are between 9 to 40, we have vaccines available for them that we can vaccinate them against the HPV. We as adults, too, you can do your screenings, do a HPV DNA test, and make sure you are free from the virus, and you can take your vaccine, and it will protect you. But you that you are sexually active already, it doesn't protect you like 100% like those who are not yet sexual, but it gives you about 90% of the protection. And we need our diet, the ready-to-eat foods, things that you open now you are eating. We have to reduce their intake. Instead of eating red meat, eat more of red vegetables. Tomatoes contain what we call lycopene, which is a very good antioxidant, which can fight cancer cells. Carrot contains beta carotene. It can fight cancer cells. We have our normal contumely and all those kind of things, which can help boost our immunity, so that whenever we come into contact with the HPV infection, the system can deal with it.
Right. So you did mention getting vaccinated.
Yeah.
Where do people go to get that?
Okay, so currently 37 Military Hospital, Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and I think International Maritime Hospital, and wherever you are listening us from, most of the regional and district hospitals are having it over there. You can just walk in. If
Do you have it where you are?
Yes, I have it at
Okay.
Medina Polyclinic. So
Okay.
you can also pass by to have
Okay.
your screening done, and if possible, do your vaccination.
Right. So when people come in, they are coming to have what? An HPV?
You are coming to
Screening.
Yes, HPV screening,
Okay.
and even you have to do it's done simultaneously. The
Okay.
cervical cancer. First of all, we want to know whether the cells have overgrown.
Right.
If you are fine, we can use the same sample to see whether you've been affected with the HPV. At times, some people, by maybe the time that you did the screen, maybe that person, the HPV has not started causing the cells to overgrow. So you might be tested negative for the cervical cancer screening itself, and later on you test HPV positive. It
Right.
means that the HPV was inside your system, but at that time it has not manifested. So we need to check both of them and make sure that you are free.
Right.
Then after that,
and you check them simultaneously.
Yes, yes.
Also, what has getting a pap smear got to do with all of this?
Oh yes, so with a pap smear, usually a pap smear is a very detailed screening. In fact, the person who brought it, the name is Papa Nikolai.
Okay.
Yes, Papa Nikolai, but because you can't just mention the full name Papa Nikolai, we shorten it for pap. And smear is just taking a sample, rubbing it towards a glass for laboratory, and it's very detailed. It tells you the type of cervical cancer that we have. So when it tells you the type of cervical cancer that, and at times someone might be having some pelvic infections or inflammation, it can detect it. Where maybe when it goes to the hospital, if you are positive of the cancer, further tests will be done for you to know the stage of that particular. So pap
Right.
smear
Is
is
important.
very, very, very important.
So supposing that maybe you do your regular pap smears, maybe how often should that be done? Once in a year, maybe?
No, at least no once every 2 or 3 years.
Every 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
So if you've been doing it every 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
do you still need to go and get the HPV testing?
Yeah, so in fact, if you do your pap smear, I usually advise that if you have the financial muscles, at least when you do it, you do the HPV DNA testing too as well. Because during that period, maybe you can't say, maybe if you've abstained from having sex after screening, fine. But if you've not abstained from having sex, you need to also get a check, because maybe you might have checked today and tomorrow
Okay.
you might test positive. So
Right.
usually if you have the strength, you have the money, and you want to do both
You,
of them,
you
can
keep
do it.
saying you have the strength, the money. Well,
Yeah.
how expensive is this?
Yeah, so for instance, with a pap smear, I know that with some of the hospitals, the least one you can get it as cheap as 150 Ghana cedis. 100 is not that cheap for certain people.
Right.
But with the vaccine, a vaccine like Cervarix, which protects you from the HPV type 16 and 18, which causes the cervical cancer, I think now it's about 785 Ghana cedis per shot. For
Well,
certain.
how many shots do you need?
So if our younger ones, 9 to 40 years, will take 2 shots, and we those who are sexually active after all the screenings will take 3 shots within 6 months.
Okay.
So within this possible 6 months, then at least you should be gathering about getting to like 4,000 or getting to 5,000 Ghana cedis, or even 3,000. And just imagine if you're having about 3 kids or 4 kids in your house,
Right.
you have to
That's-
spend.
yeah.
And we have the almighty Gardasil 9, which protects you from almost about more strains of the HPV, the ones that causes genital warts and other cancers. With that one, it's about 3,500 Ghana cedis and
Per shot?
Per shot.
Okay.
And-
It's not subsidized by the government?
No. That's
How
what-
is that?
Yeah, I usually we are still advocating. You know, some way back, a certain government was doing this kind of vaccination for free, but there was a change in government and all these things stopped. So we are still advocating that at least if these things could have been covered by the National Health Insurance, so that
Right.
every woman or every girl can do the vaccination or even the screening, so that
Yeah.
we can help protect ourselves. Because every year 1,699 women lose their lives out of cervical cancer in Ghana.
Okay.
And just imagine in the next 5 years, the number of women that will be losing are getting to about like 10,000. So
Right.
it's something that the government needs to cover it with the National Health Insurance, and people can do it. We will not even talk about treatment, because treatment is very, very expensive. Cancer treatment is very, very, if you don't get help, you will die. You might have seen it early, but because of financial muscles, you can't really do anything about it.
Right.
Yes.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Dr. Blaise Akom. Nurse Blaise Akom. Thank you so much for joining us in studio to talk about cervical cancer. We're going to have further conversations about this, but
We have a walk coming up this coming Saturday with
Okay.
all cancer survivors. You see someone who has survived breast cancer, you see someone who has survived cervical cancer. We even have men who have survived breast cancer.
Yes.
So we are coming together with all these people on Saturday. June is Cancer Survivors Month. We
Okay.
want to celebrate them because some of them have lovely stories that people need to know, so that you know that when you see it early, much can be done for you. So Saturday on the 8th of June, we'll meet at Accra Girls Senior High School, then walk to Airwork Stadium, where we'll have these survivors sharing their stories to encourage other people to get their screenings done. So on the 8th of June, will be at 6 a.m. We'll be expecting Ghanaians to join us. Celebrate
that's
these
wonderful.
people. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much
Thank you too.
for joining us in studio. Also, you can share with us your social media handles,
Okay.
so that for anybody who may be having any challenges
Yeah.
or further questions, they can get in touch.
Yeah, so my social media handles are Blaise.com.
Okay.
The Blaise is Blaise, then that com ACKOM. So Blaise.com. You can also call me on 024 031 5450. 024 031 5450. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for coming through. This is The Zone. This is Star 103.5 FM. So there you had the conversation on cervical cancer. More will come your way the rest of the week. In the meantime, Master J, take it away.
She sparks up your mid-mornings. It's The Zone. The Zone.